Hello everyone, welcome back to All Financial Discussion channel. This video, I like to explain the relationship between number one, source of income, number two, investment, and last but not least, spending. Okay, so we need to understand the relationship so as to be able to achieve financial independence. So therefore, this is very important. In fact, the first step to achieve financial independence. This is my email. If you have any question regards on this discussion, okay, feel free to drop me an email. Okay, or if not, I actually prefer you guys to comment. Okay, so that this is actually much easier for me to manage. Before I continue, okay, I'd like to urge you guys to help me by like this video. Guys, help me, give me a few seconds by like this video. Please also give me some support, some encouragement by subscribing to this channel and turn on your notification bell. Once again, thank you so much for strong support. Let's come to this excellent tips by Guru Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett actually give us 6 so-called on. Okay, so this video, like I mentioned here, there are 6 of them, and this video, in fact, will be just covering mainly on these 3. Okay, so these 3 out of the 6. Okay, so Warren Buffett said this on earnings, okay, which is also on incomes. Okay, so never depend on single income. Make investment to create a second source. Okay, so for me, I think not only second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. Infinite if possible. So therefore, this is his advice. Okay, don't depend just on a single income. Next, his advice on spending. Okay, so if you buy things that you do not need, soon you will have to sell things that you actually need. Okay, so Warren Buffett is already a billionaire, but if you read the news, okay, he actually still stay in a humble house. So therefore, he actually endorsed what he actually say for this on spending. On saving, okay, so this is what his advice. Do not save what is left after spending, okay, which means that after you spend all your income, okay, whatever that is left over, you consider them as a saving. Okay, so this is he said that no, please don't do this, but spend what is left after saving. Okay, which means that, for example, when your income come, the first thing is you cut one part for the saving. The rest, then you will leave it for spending. So this is actually his advice also. Okay, his advice on taking risks. Okay, so never test the depth of river with both feet. Okay, which means that, for example, you are going to do some form of risk. Okay, do not go all the way. Okay, to test the risk. Okay, so this can be quite dangerous. So this is what it means here. Never test the depth of the river with both feet. Okay, so this is his advice. Okay, so in terms on investment, do not put all eggs in one basket. Okay, which means that do not put all your risk in one choice. For example, okay, let's say you're going to invest in one and the only thing. This can be very dangerous. Next on expectation, okay, honesty is actually a very expensive gift. Do not expect it from cheap people. Okay, so basically this is the 6 so-called excellent tips by Warren Buffett on the 6 on. Next, okay, as I mentioned, the objective of this video is to show the relationship on the source of income, investment, and also spending. Okay, the source of income, investment, and spending, they are actually so-called interconnect aspect of personal finance. The income actually provide the fund for both investment and spending, while investment can generate further income and potentially impact spending habit. Okay, so from this diagram here, okay, so basically this is you, this is your money. Okay, how to increase your money is definitely through the income. Okay, so basically the income actually increase your money. However, on the other side, which is the outflow, will be your spending. So your spending actually will reduce the money that you actually can have. Okay, so key discussion on this so-called channel will be on investment. Okay, so this investment is actually the money that you're going to hold if you are not going to do anything, okay, because of inflation, your money actually devalue. So therefore, in order to protect your money from devalue, you actually need to do something like investment. When you actually do investment, for example, okay, it can actually create another source of income, which is so-called encouraged by Warren Buffett. Okay, just imagine this. Let's say if you have enough money, you actually can buy a property. And when you actually buy a property, you actually so-called rent it out. Okay, basically you will have this rental source of income. This actually generate another passive income. Okay, so this is actually why investment is very important. Okay, so if you don't have any money, then you are definitely not able to buy any property, and therefore you cannot create another source of income. So therefore, to keep the money that you have, to accumulate the money that you have is very important. The more money that you have on hand, the more possibility that you can so-called create another alternative source of income. Okay, so basically, this is our focus on investment so as to create another source of income. Okay, before I continue, okay, I like to focus on the source of income as for now. Okay, so let's focus on the source of income. Okay, so there are actually three types of source of income. Okay, so this is what we call the employment. Okay, so we call this as active income. Okay, active income means that we can so-called contribute, let's say our time, contribute our skill set, okay, so contribute our effort, etc. So this is what we call the tradition job. Okay, so basically we have 8 to 5 job. Okay, so we are paid in a money or even nowadays, even in hourly work. Okay, so we can work in a corporate jobs. Okay, for example, we can find some job in the healthcare, teaching, engineering, etc., etc. So this is a very tradition job. Okay, so basically we are very so-called familiar with this tradition job. Okay, nowadays it actually streamlines into another thing we call a freelancing and also part-time job. Okay, I'd like to explain the difference between freelancing and part-time job. Okay, so this freelancing is basically you have certain skill set, okay, that you can actually offer, then you actually can create another source of income. As for part-time job, for me, okay, typically you just offer your time and you actually have another source of income. Okay, for example, under this freelancing, okay, for example, if you are very good in terms of writing, okay, so you imagine you can do some of writing, or maybe when you actually go to a tour, okay, you write a blog. Okay, so basically this is under the writing. Okay, if you are very good in terms of graphic design, you do some design and you actually sell this design to somebody, you actually have some source of income also. Again, on programming, okay, so you are a good programmer, you write some source code, and again, you can sell this to somebody and you actually earn income. Same for consulting and offer some tuition. Okay, so basically from here you can see that you have certain skill set to offer, then you actually can earn this so-called another source of income through some form of employment. Okay, so part-time job, like I mentioned earlier on, simply just offer time. Okay, for example, you work in a retail. Okay, so I don't think learning at a retail is very challenging. So you offer your time and you actually receive another form of income through the employment. Okay, so you can do this maybe on the weekend, do some so-called F&B service here, Grab, okay, like a taxi. Okay, I think throughout the world, Uber is a so-called more recognized name, okay, like a taxi, or you can do some food delivery. So from here, you can see that you actually offer your time in order to have another source of income, okay, through the employment. Okay, next will be the source of income through the business and entrepreneurship. Okay, for me, I think that this is still considered active income rather than passive income. Passive income for me is basically you just have a very little commit in terms of time, in terms of skill set that you actually earn something. So for me, for this so-called classification in terms of business and entrepreneurship, I will still consider them as active income. For example, okay, you can definitely create another source of income, okay, by doing e-commerce. Okay, so from here you can see that you probably need to spend a lot of time. Okay, so you set up whatever product you have, and then you still need to pack them and then send it out. Okay, so basically from here, so therefore it's very difficult to call this as a passive income. The time that you given, okay, to set up everything and then finally sell this product, okay, can be through Amazon, Lazada, Shopee, etc. Okay, so there are lots of so-called e-commerce platform to sell your product. Okay, but over here you can see that you spend quite a fair bit of time just to sell your product. So basically this is, for me, still classified as active income. Okay, so this is actually like a business entity here. Okay, service-based business. Okay, for example, you can offer some business like some form of cleaning, okay, cleaning of car, cleaning of household, etc. And for example, you can also be a coach. Okay, for example, you are good at playing badminton, you can become a badminton coach, swimming coach, etc. So some case here for marketing agent, okay, for example, okay, some property so-called agent would like you to help to do some form of marketing agent. So basically, this is how we can create another source of income in a service-based business. Next will be content creation. Okay, so I think this is me. Okay, so in terms of content creation, okay, so basically I'm so-called under this YouTube. Hopefully, this channel will be so-called monetized. Then I will be able to receive some fee from YouTube. So basically, this is also part of my objective to seek another source of income. Okay, blogging. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier on, for example, you make a little tour, you can actually do some form of blogging. Okay, so basically you can earn some income through the advertisement and then some form of sponsorship. Okay, so basically this is how you can earn another source of income through the content creation. Next will be so-called affiliation marketing. Okay, so basically Amazon, okay, Lazada and Shopee, they actually need someone to help them to promote their product. Okay, so basically you will be able to earn a very small commission, okay, in order to help them to market their product. So basically this is another source of income through the business and entrepreneurship. Like I mentioned earlier on, I think for this case here, most of the time I will consider this still as active income rather than passive income. Next, I come to the creative income. Okay, so these are all very niche. Okay, again, it may need some of your skill set also. Okay, selling digital product. Okay, for example, okay, you can write very well. Okay, you can actually write an ebook and you can start to sell this ebook. Okay, for example, I'm actually an engineer in training. Okay, I can actually offer some course, okay, some online course, and again, I can actually create another source of income. A good designer probably can do some template design, and again, from here, you can create another source of income. Print on demand. Okay, so basically in Singapore, we have this Print KK and ZG. Okay, if I didn't pronounce this correctly. Okay, so basically you can actually sell some customized design to help people to design, etc. Testing apps and website. Okay, so basically you can so-called help to test, okay, anything that is new. Okay, for example, you need to test their website, etc. So this is what we call some form of testing to create another source of income. Okay, we can also participate in research study. Okay, so for example, okay, we can earn some amount of small appreciation. Okay, for example, by doing some online survey. Okay, they maybe offer you some voucher, etc. So basically, this is also another source of income. Next, okay, we have done the discussion on the source of income. Okay, so now I think the key thing is we need to focus on investment, okay, which is the key part of this video discussion. Okay, so understand how does investment, okay, actually able to create another source of income. Okay, so we talk about investment. Okay, so for me, investment, most likely we will classify them as passive income. Okay, so there are various ways, in fact, more than this way, but mainly, okay, on stock market. Okay, so I understand on stock market, for example, you buy certain share, they actually offer dividend. Okay, so this dividend, maybe they can offer every year one time. So this actually become another source of income. When you trade, okay, in stock market, okay, so there is always a saying, buy low, sell high. So when you actually able to do this, you will have some surplus, you have another source of income because you actually buy low, and when you actually sell high, you actually make a profit. But keep this in mind, okay, this may not be possible all the time. Okay, so it's very easy to always say that buy low, sell high, but we need to keep our emotion in check in order to do this. Okay, next is also on index fund. Okay, I will come to this discussion on index funds soon. Okay, so for example, S&P 500, etc. Real estate, okay, so basically this is what I mentioned early on. For example, if you have enough money, you buy a property and you rent out the property, then you will have this rental income. So this is actually a very so-called reliable passive income that a lot of Singaporeans are trying to do this. This cryptocurrency, okay, is actually a very new thing. Okay, so now youngster actually like this cryptocurrency a lot. Okay, to be very frank, I'm not so sure what is called staking and also yield farming. Okay, trading again will be the same philosophy of the trading for stock market. If you are able to buy low and sell high, then you will be able to make some profit. And basically, this can be like a source of passive income. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier on, passive income, you don't need so much skill set, okay, don't need so much time. And basically, with this, you can actually create another source of income. Renting a set. Okay, so basically, this is also quite hot. It's almost similar like property. Okay, but in Singapore, for example, if you have car, you can consider to rent it to drive lah. So basically, they will give you some so-called monetary if someone rent your car. Home wise, okay, so earlier on I did mention, okay, so this rental income can be in term of a longer term. Okay, in Singapore, okay, or Airbnb, okay, for private property, I understand that if someone rent your home for consecutive 3 months for private property, okay, it's actually allowed. Okay, so if for HDB consecutive 6 months is actually allowed for Airbnb. So basically, this is so-called the short-term home renting. Fashion, okay, so an accessory. Okay, so this is actually very new. Okay, for example, just imagine that if you have luxury good like LV bag, okay, you can actually consider to rent your luxury good. And again, all this can be another source of income, which I classified them as passive income. Next, I have done on the investment. So now let's focus on spending. Okay, so I think spending is depending on individual lifestyle. Okay, so if you want to have a so-called very luxurious ways of spending, there's no way that I can comment. Okay, so therefore I don't so-called discuss much in terms of spending, but just want to take a quick look, okay, on how Singaporeans spend their money. Okay, so as I mentioned on my previous video, housing, okay, the inflation is very scary. So from here you can see that for Singaporean, okay, most of their money, in fact, 30% of their money actually spent in terms of housing. Over here, you can see that majority of them are so-called the essential thing that we actually need. We definitely need food for survive. We need to have some form of transport to bring us from point A to point B. Health also, okay, we also start to have more spending in terms of health, as you can see from here. But like I mentioned earlier on, okay, I would not want to touch more on spending because this is actually very depend on individual, which I can't comment much. Okay, and my last slide, I would like to bring back to the advice from Warren Buffett. Okay, so as what you have seen early on, okay, in terms of earning, okay, so I actually fully agree with Warren Buffett. We should not and never depend on single income, okay, which means that your salary job, we should not just depend on that. We must think of a way, make some form of investment so as to create a second or maybe third or fourth, or in fact, as much as possible, another alternative source of income. Next on spending, okay, as I mentioned earlier on, okay, we do not really need to spend. Okay, so for example, you can eat lesser, okay, in the restaurant. You can go to hawker center to have your food. With the money that you actually save, okay, you actually will be able to retire earlier. So basically, this is also the advice from Warren Buffett. Okay, in terms of investment, so therefore, over this channel here, okay, I hope I can offer various type of investment so as to so-called echo what Warren Buffett has said. Do not put all egg in one basket, which means that we are not going to so-called invest all our money in just one thing. And if that thing actually fail, then we will be in deep trouble. So with this, I'd like to end my discussion. Please help to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Once again, thank you so much for strong support. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much.